Hey guys! The Gun Mettle update just hit for TF2 and I wanted to make a video talking about what this means for you, what this means for competitive, and what this means for TF2 as a whole. As a community, we've always struggled with the way that TF2 has been designed. Like if you look at the original design of the game, it was designed to take a very competitive game, which was Quake, and turn it into this casual game that was very approachable by all different audiences. You had random crits, you had weapon damage spread, you had just a wide variety of classes that appealed to a large number of people. And then if you look at the comp TF2 community, we're trying to do the opposite of that, right? We're trying to take this chaotic gameplay designed for casuals and turn it into a competitive game that's very controlled, right? We reduced the number of classes. We took off the random crits. We made the damage spread fixed so that way it gets very predictable, because that's what competitive gaming is all about, right? Competitive is about making things predictable so that way you can test to see who's the better player, who is more skilled. Now for the past 8 years, we've always been butting heads, right? The developers are always making this game that really doesn't agree with the competitive community. And now with the Gun Mettle update, it's very confusing because they're sort of going back on that now and they're making a game that's more competitive. Like, if you look at the way that Valve released their weapons in the past, it was all very confusing. It was like, okay, we're going to release weapons that are straight upgrades to stock weapons. Like, we're going to make weapons that are legitimately direct upgrades to whatever's existing, and then we're going to sell it to you on the marketplace. And they also made weapons that were just direct counters to the classes that were supposed to be killing them. Like, if you look at the original game, it's kind of like a rock, paper, scissors, you know? You got the spy killing the heavy, and the heavy kills the pyro, and the pyro kills the spy. And then now they just gave all the classes stuff to combat that. Like, I don't know, they gave spy the Spicicle, which puts out fires so pyros can't kill them as easily. Like they gave heavies the Hulong heater, which spreads fire around him so that he can't get stabbed by spies. Like they gave sniper a hat that prevented you from getting headshot killed. Like it was very confusing, and it just seemed to make the game more approachable to casual audiences, but then doesn't really cater to the competitive community. So as a competitive community, what did we do? Well, we just made our own rules, right? We just said, okay, we're going to limit all the classes to 2. Okay, we're just going to ban engineer, heavy, and medic and demo to 1. Okay, we're going to just eliminate certain weapons from the game that we just don't want to see. And that's all fine and dandy. That's how we've operated for the longest time. We have our game, they have their game, we're just going to stay separate. But now with this update, we're kind of coming back together. As a competitive community, we've always wanted developer support, and now Valve is finally giving that to us. So they're balancing the weapons, they're making all the classes viable, and they're giving us the stuff that CSGO has. Contracts, stat tracking weapons, skins that basically look identical to CSGO, and a lot of people are complaining about that. They don't want our game to turn into CSGO. But on the other hand, you have to look at all the pros that CSGO has. I mean, this past weekend at the ESEA competition, they had 200,000 people watching Cloud9 versus Fnatic. Like, that is amazing. And the viewership for that game is incredible on Twitch, at least, and that brings us so much opportunity for TF2. Like, if you look at TF2's viewership in the past week, it's been incredible. We were up there competing with ARK, Survival Evolved, FIFA 15, and Call of Duty. We were one of the top 10 games on Twitch. Now, granted, it was all-star. Like, he had 15,000 people watching him at once, and yeah, that was the first time Stars streamed TF2 in, like, forever, but hey, I'll take it, man. People are watching TF2, they're getting interested in it, and that's awesome for the community, because the more people get involved in TF2, the better. So what does this mean for us as a scene? Because it's up to us. We have to decide what we're going to do with what Valve is giving us. Are we going to continue rejecting Valve's game, or are we going to embrace it and sort of come to some sort of middle ground where we can all coexist together? Well, it really depends on a couple of different things, right? It depends on what Valve decides that they want to do, and then it depends on us and what we want to do. Valve has a lot of options from here, right? Their job is to make a game that will be embraced by everybody, and they need to make a game that will appeal to their audience. Like, they can't cannibalize their own business. So what are they going to do? They're buffing the spy, right? They're making all the classes viable, because that was sort of the appeal of Highlander, right? Is that you could just hop into competitive but then play the class that you always enjoyed. Whereas if you wanted to get into sixes, you had to change classes. Like originally, personally, I was a spy main, and then when I saw that I had to get into sixes, I had to pick one of 4 classes. Alright, I'll pick the scout, that's fine. But I can already see a little bit of uneasiness within the competitive community. So UGC League, which is the free-to-play league around the world for a competitive scene, they just announced that they're not going to allow you to pick up metaguns from the opposing team. That's a pretty big deal, right? This update just came out 1 week ago, and already we're rejecting what Valve is giving us, and we're sort of heading in that direction again. But you have to realize that for TF2 to exist in the long run, we're going to have to accept at least some of what the developer gives us. They're going to make balance changes to weapons, and it's going to be out of our control. They're going to make changes to the game, and there's not going to be much that we're going to do about it. Yes, if you look at the way that 5v5 Arena Respawn was developed by those guys, they heavily modded TF2, right? But if our game is going to exist on a large scale, we need to embrace the game. We need to play the game that everyone else is playing, because that is how our game is going to get to the next level. You look at every other major esport and everyone's playing the same game, right? League of Legends, Counter-Strike, Hearthstone, Dota 2. Everyone is playing the same game, so that when you watch it on the big screen at ESL, it's going to be 200,000 people watching Cloud9 versus Fnatic, and everyone's going to understand what's happening there, right? The rules are all the same. And that is what I'm trying to suggest to you guys, is that maybe we should try and embrace what Valve is giving us. Maybe for once Valve is actually on our side, and we actually need to take what they're giving us rather than rejecting it and banning it outright. Because yes, they have made some changes in the past that have broken our game completely. Like when Valve made the change to the quick fix that buffed it significantly and we allowed it at the ESEA LAN a year ago, yes, it was game breaking. Yes, it really slowed down the gameplay. There are some changes that we cannot take. But on the other hand, if we at least give it a chance and try it out and see if it works, that's probably the better thing for us in the long run, because Valve is going to continue experimenting with TF2. TF2 has always been this test bed for Valve to make just random experiments and see if they work, because at the end of the day, TF2 is just a game for casuals, right? It's just a game that they'll just do whatever they want with. They introduced microtransactions, they made it free to play, right? That was a big deal back in the day when TF2 was free to play. And now they're going to continue experimenting with TF2. They're going to take the lessons that they learned from other games, right? Like CS:GO, they're going to introduce those concepts into TF2, and now it's up to us to decide whether or not we're going to accept or reject that. So moving forward, you know, I'm not the UGC League admin, I'm not the ESEA League admin, but hey, we as a community get to decide what we're going to do moving forward. And I think that if Valve is going to release matchmaking, and if everyone is going to be playing that on a large scale, we should at least make all of our tournaments and all of our rules match that. Now, like I said, we don't know what the rules are yet, we don't know what matchmaking is going to be, but we can at least start moving in that direction. And rather than banning everything outright, I think we should at least give it a chance. So, I'm going to see you guys on the next video. I hope you enjoy the update. I hope you enjoy TF2. I will see you guys on Twitch. Later.